Welcome back, Truth Seeker. January 3rd, 2019. It's episode 41. Thought that was kind of funny. Episode 41 on January 3rd. 41 the 13th prime. January 3rd, 1-3. See how often these synchronicities come about with the podcast. Anyhow, I was looking at this day in history, and what jumped out in a big way is it was this day, 1977, so 42 years ago, that Apple Computers was incorporated. They became a corporation, a publicly traded company, 42 years ago today. And what's going on in the news on the 42-year anniversary? Apple drops the bombshell that stokes the Wall Street fears. And the news is the trade wars are hurting Apple, and they found that the Chinese marketplace is not buying iPhones like they used to, and that's hurting sales. Today, January 3rd, 19, also has 23-day numerology. Apple equals 23. The market tanked over 600 points. Here's the Apple sales in recent months. Hit its peak in October after the releases. Been straight down ever since. And the word market has 23 too. Apple news tanks the market January 3rd, the 42-year anniversary of them incorporating. And in light of 42, remember the word computer equals 42. Word internet's also 42. Both computer and internet share gematria values of 666. Remember, Apple priced their first consumer computer at $666 in 1984, and not by accident. Also on this day in history, Martin Luther was booted from the Catholic Church, go on to form the Lutheran movement. Yours truly was raised Lutheran. Noticed Martin Luther died on a fateful day in history, February 18th. Also on this day in history, 1868, Japan's Meiji Restoration reestablished the authority of the emperor and heralded the fall of the military rulers known as shoguns. Shoguns. The upheaval paved the way for Japan's drive toward becoming a modern power. Interesting about the shoguns on January 3rd, a date that can be written 3/1 like 31, shoguns 31. In 1938, the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio was established by President FDR, who himself had been afflicted with the crippling disease. Again, January 3rd can be written 3/1, polio 31. In 1959, Alaska became the 49th state. That was during the time of President Eisenhower. It's getting a little abstract on this one. I was just thinking 49 when you break it down in numerology. 4 plus 9 is 13. It's January 3rd, 1/3. Notice when you write out 13, it has a lot of overlap with Alaska. You see that on the screen? 45, 45, 117, 117, 45 again. But it was this day in history. Alaska became the 49th state. Don't forget, USA's 41, the 13th prime. In 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower announced the United States was formally terminating diplomatic and relations with Cuba. Fidel Castro, his birthday was August 13th. He was born in 26. He turned 34 August 13th, 1960. I noticed that from his birthday to this big announcement was 143 days after his birthday, or on his 144th day of his age. You know, 143 has a lot to do with the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The number 144 has a lot to do with the Jesuit order. Jesuit order is 144. Castro was a Jesuit. We just talked the other day about Castro's very Jesuit death, along with his brothers and his sons that were all synced up with Pope Francis. on his 144th day of his age. And don't forget that Washington, D.C. used to be the Catholic colony. And don't forget that Donald Trump just visited the Vatican by the numbers, visiting on the 144th day of the year, May 24th. And he went to the Jesuit University in 64, Fordham. Also on this day in history in 1967, Jack Ruby, the man who shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald, supposedly JFK's assassin. Jack Ruby would die on this day in history. And what's so interesting about that is, again, this date, January 3rd, can be written 1/3. JFK was killed in Dallas. Dallas is 13 as well as 41, the 13th prime. In 1980, on this day, conservationist Joy Adamson, author of Born Free, was killed in northern Kenya by a former employee. I was just finishing this up so I could start on time. I didn't do a whole lot of decoding here, but right away it jumped out that the name Joy equals 31 and 13, dead on January 3rd. In 1993, President George H.W. Bush and Russian President Boris Yeltsin signed the START II Missile Reduction Treaty in Moscow. Notice that START II equals 93, like the year it began in. What a coincidence. The U.S., Moscow, the nations that dropped the atomic bombs more than any other. Atomic bomb 93 as well. 93, a big number with George H.W. Bush until the end. In 2013, on this day, students from Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, reconvened at a different building in the town of Monroe about 3 weeks after the massacre that had claimed the lives of 20 first graders and 6 educators. The new 113th Congress opened for business, with House Speaker John Boehner reelected to his post despite a mini revolt in Republican ranks. And remember, that Congress was heavy on Sandy Hook and more background checks. And anyway, the 113th Congress, right in line with Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Notice Sandy Hook Elementary School 113. That day that they reconvened, January 3rd, 2013, date with 37 numerology, shooting equals 37, as does Congress. Again, news, politics, all synced up, agenda, propaganda to persuade the people, news by the numbers. No. Never ends. And just want to send a message out there to my man, Dan Barrett. Dan Barrett's been doing this nearly as long as I have. He found my videos when I first started putting this work out on YouTube, and he took right to it. He was looking for answers. He had a thing with numbers and great memory, a lot of history stored in his brain, has a lot of trivia knowledge. And he helped me take this work to the next level. Anyhow, I just saw that he uploaded some videos. He's been quiet for a while, and he said he's been going through a dark time. He's been feeling dark, and this work's been stressing him out a little bit, and he doesn't like being angry and stressed out. And he feels like he's been spinning his wheels, and says it's been like one of those things. The more you learn, sometimes it feels like the less you know. And anyway, I just want to say to Dan and all the people that feel like that, it's very clear how the government operates by this code and manipulates information. And I think it's important to continue to expose that, because not enough people are. And yes, there absolutely is an organic side to this code. We've always acknowledged that. And that is where things become more confusing and interesting. But it's not hard to see the way the government manipulates information every single day for agenda, for control. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So I saw Derek's feeling that way too. Derek left a comment in Dan's video and said, yeah, I haven't been making many videos lately either because I feel the same way. So just a little reminder there. Now, coming back to this news again today, Apple announcing on their 42-year anniversary of incorporating this gloom outlook for 2019. And this is what we've been talking about. You know, the manipulation of the market, the world economy, the coming stagnation, potentially collapse, and all for agenda. All throughout history, the same things done again and again. Markets intentionally sabotaged to bring about a sense of despair in people, a sense of desperation. Because when people are down and out, they're more likely to do things they don't want to do, such as sign up for war. And what's been foretold in this world, you know? Washington, D.C., you got the statue of Albert Pike, who wrote the 3 letters about the 3 world wars and how the final one will be against Islam. And it's not hard to see what's coming, you know? This agenda has been in motion for many decades, centuries, and a lot of us really woke up to it on September 11th, an event that was orchestrated by the numbers, which is, again, how I got into this research. I knew that there was something very number-oriented about 911, the national emergency, on September 11th. And lo and behold, it led to all of this. But it's just very easy to see that every single day how these rituals are perfectly planned. The 42-year anniversary of Apple incorporating this news comes that creates this outlook for 2019. Apple's went from the biggest company to the 4th biggest company in the world, falling behind other tech giants. And let's just note that here. So the top companies are now Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, which all have big footprints in the Seattle area. And consider it's 2019 and Seattle has that gematria 19. See what happens with Seattle this year. Probably going to be a big year for Seattle. They just lost the Nordstrom's owner, the CEO of Nordstrom, CEO 58, dead at 58, to start the 2019 year. Nordstrom's headquartered out of Seattle, established in Seattle. Covered that yesterday. Nordstrom's established 118 years ago. Cancer equals 118. Head of Nordstrom's dead from cancer at age 58. All right, another story here. Nancy Pelosi elected House Speaker. Remember, it was November 28th. We covered how the Democrats supported her to become House Speaker. That was a span of 37 days ago. Congress is 37. We talked about this then. And to her upcoming birthday, Nancy Pelosi, from today to her upcoming birthday is 82 days later. What's Speaker of the House equal? 82. How perfect. They couldn't have scripted it any better. Nancy Pelosi, let us not forget, became the first woman Speaker of the House when she was 66 years old. Woman with the alphabetic order 66. She now becomes, let me see, where do I got these notes at? Maybe they're up here. She becomes Speaker this time at age 78, 12 years later. She retains the position. 12 years later, what's 66 break down to? 6 plus 6 is 12. Anyhow, Congress also equals 37, the 12th prime, 12 years later. Anyhow, Nancy is 78 years old right now. Notice her name has gematria 78. When she got support from the Democrats, November 28th, 18, it was a date with 57 numerology. Nancy's also 57. Don't forget the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is headquartered in D.C., 5778. Perfect. And then in 2018, Nancy Pelosi, she set the record for the longest speech in Congress. She read email after email. We covered what was so interesting about this story the day she did it. It was for the Dreamers. Dreamers equals 47. It was February 7th, 2018, a date with 47 numerology. And not only that, but it was 47 days from her birthday when she gave this longest speech in Congress. And as we know, 47 is the number in D.C. D.C. 47, Democrat 47, Republican 47, Whig 47, government 47, White House 47, authority 47, president 47, Caesar 47, Trump 47, agent 47, Trump in the 47-story Midtown Hilton Hotel the night of the election. Not an accident. Get Nancy Pelosi's name in the base ciphers, the overlap with government. Born to be. Born to be. Nancy P. So anyhow, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House by the numbers. Down in Mexico, not as good news for Alejandro Santiago. He was murdered right after becoming mayor. And he was killed on the first day of 2019. Notice the name Alejandro Santiago, gematria of 67, the 19th prime. We saw how all the stories on New Year's Day that we covered were all 67 coded. Sure, we'll see more 67s than usual this year because it's 2019, 67, the 19th prime. As we know, blood sacrifice is also 67. Reading this article about his death, they said that last year there were 33,000 homicides in Mexico. And interesting number, using our most pure cipher, Mexico and Mexican are 33. The Mexican-American War once ended in history on the 33rd day of the year with the Treaty of Hidalgo. Got to wonder if that's a real number or a fudge number. They also say that 175 politicians were killed between September 2017 and August 2018 in Mexico. That is pretty amazing. That's less than a year. That's over 11 months' time. That's more than 50. That's about 16 dead politicians a month. 16 a month. So 4 a week? 4 a week. And then I noticed the last sentence is about the movie right now that's getting all the recognition. They got to bring Hollywood into it. So going to follow this Mexican politician killing business. I did not realize it was so bad. Wondering how we've been missing all those headlines up here in the U.S. I think it was 2014 I covered the story out of Mexico. Somebody coming out and talking about how Mexico's police were all controlled by Freemasonry. I'm going to go back and look for that article. If you listened to the radio show last night, somebody called in, good callers from New York, and they said, have you seen this video out of Russia? The bridge collapsed there, the standing bridge. He said it's kind of viral on the internet, but nobody's talking about the obvious thing that somebody who's recording this, seemingly the only recording of this, they're holding up a decoration that looks like an upside down pentagram. And again, when you make a pentagram upside down, it becomes a satanic symbol, a symbol of evil. If it's pointing up, it's a symbol of spiritual uplift, but you can see here it's pointing down and it does resemble a pentagram. And notice how it's also pointing right at where the bridge collapses. I think I can show this without getting a copyright. It's only 12 seconds long. Just watch this real quick. I mean, this is pretty interesting here. So, I mean, it's like, what in the world? The one guy recording, he's holding up this object. You can clearly tell that he is because as he turns away the camera, it comes with him. It's pointing right where it collapses. You know, he had it pointing there before it collapsed here. I just captured this image so you can just see how perfectly lined up it is. I mean, what do we make of it? The date of New Year's, this happened New Year's Eve, right? The date of New Year's, 1/1/2019, 1 plus 1 plus 20 plus 19 equals 41. It was a date with 41 numerology. Pentagram equals 41. The cipher that I don't want to say Derek invented it, but Derek believes he uncovered it, and he might very well have. He took Jewish gematria, which is a real cipher, and he just used the rules of numerology, and then he added in the ampersand. Anyway, in Jewish reduction, this cipher that Derek uncovered, this happened in Gorky Park. It does equal 41. So I thought, that's interesting. It's interesting that in the Jewish reduction cipher, it syncs up with pentagram. That's the park where this collapse happened. And then pentagram syncs up with the numerology of the first day of the new year. But yeah, this is very strange to me. I mean, was this a planned event? Why would these people participate in this? Who wants to do this for New Year's Eve? But it is very strange. It is very strange. Reminds me of the Alex Smith thing in a way. So anyway, just wanted to just show that to you. Maybe somebody out there has some ideas of their own how this might have been made to happen. Another caller last night, TFR, said, have you heard about this Canary mission? They learned about it out of this recent story. In Cleveland, a doctor was fired. They had these anti-Semitic tweets from years earlier. Said something about they'd give Jews the wrong meds. And in the article, it says it was the Canary mission that dug up this tweet. I guess what this Canary mission does is, they just constantly search the web for people who are making anti-Semitic remarks and compiling the names and essentially making a database of who are perceived as the anti-Semitic people in the world. And then they're using that digital file and tracking these people. And when they, essentially when they find out where these people work or where they're applying for jobs, this Canary mission is sending the information to the employer, or, if they're trying to get into a school, the school they're trying to get into, and essentially exposing them as anti-Semitic. And, it just goes to show how much influence and power and control and resources these people have. Think about the internet and how many racist and hateful things are posted every single day. There's no group tracking hate speech for any other people. I mean, if you go online and play a video game, you play one of those shooter games or something, and you can hear the people talking. I mean, the N-words being thrown around left and right like nothing. And, there's it's the world. You guys understand the point I'm making. No one's tracking any of this and making any database for this. But if you say something that's perceived as anti-Semitic, well, the Canary mission's out there and they are building your profile and they're going to get you. It reminds me, the other year, somebody called into my radio show. It was shortly after Checker Face Mask was making the threats to me that landed. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's because you weren't here then. There was a guy on YouTube uploading videos in a black and white checkered mask, threatening, telling me if I knew the numbers for Christmas Eve, I better watch out on Christmas Eve. And then a car crashes through my house. And he makes a video about me and a dead squirrel, and then a dead squirrel shows up in front of my house on the property. Never happened before. But somebody called in and said that same person, they made a comment to him on his video about what he was doing, and they said something that they shouldn't have said. And he took that comment and he found out where they worked and he sent it to the employer and they lost their job over it. I was like, wow, the same guy threatening me is causing other people to lose their jobs, huh? Over YouTube posts. So I'm sure I must have a profile with the Canary mission, huh? I wonder if that's maybe why I can't get a job with Yakima Public Schools and they won't let me know. But I'd rather be teaching about this anyway, so that's okay. Also today, it is the 116th Congress voted in on 11/6, taking office today. We have the first 2 Muslim women taking office. Fox News has been talking an awful lot about, how terrible it would be for women with headdresses to be in the Congress. It's like, are we free or not? I mean, who cares if somebody wears a headdress? Why is that such a big deal? You notice the story starts with her 13-year-old son on January 3rd. Oh, what a coincidence. I want to show you what that made me think of. Well, first I'll point out this. We covered how on August 7th, she became the front runner for the Democratic Party on 8/7 after she was voted to be the front runner. Muslims 87. So that was the first thing we covered about this. And then we noticed that the first 2 Muslim women elected, what was interesting is one was in Minnesota, the other was in Michigan. 2 states start with M, just like Muslim. Both states in the Midwest, another M. The word prophet has gematria of 91, as in the prophet Muhammad. 91's the 13th triangular number, like M's the 13th letter. And the surname of one of the women sums to 91. Same one with the 13-year-old son talked about today. And then the other woman elected in, her name sums to 91. Just, what are the odds? What are the odds? So I maintain that these politicians, born and bred to be and named accordingly, too many coincidences otherwise. And did I note it here? The woman who's got the most attention, just like today, the woman with the 13-year-old son who's 42 years old right now, when she got voted in, it was on her 106th day of her age. Prophecy equals 106, as in the Prophet Muhammad. And then today's headline was how she's going to be sworn in on Thomas Jefferson's Quran. It's obvious that of the 2 women, this is the one who has more of the attention of the media. But Thomas Jefferson Quran also 106. It's like how she was elected on her 106th day of her age, the big prophecy number. So looks a little too perfect to me. Also, we have an update on the death of Mean Gene Okerlund. He had a bad fall that led to his death per TMZ. Look at the gematria of bad fall and death. And look where this bad fall happened in Florida, 38 land. Bad fall 38, death 38, Florida 38. What do you know? What do you know? Also, yesterday, somebody asked if I could look into the death of Randy Savage. If you missed my video on Mean Gene's death, we looked at his 1989 skit with Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage talking about demolishing the Twin Towers. They wouldn't rest until they came crumbling down. So I went back and looked at Randy Savage's death. He was born on the fateful day, November 15th, the 319th day of the year, big Masonic number. Same day my house got burglarized by the numbers. From November 15th to May 20th was his 187th day of his age. He died on his 187th day of his age at age 58. And why that matters is because his surname, Poffo, has gematria of 58. Also like Freemasonry, like secret society, where the WWE is run by the Freemason Vince McMahon. That year was the year of WrestleMania 27, the ritual number. He died 47 days after WrestleMania. 47 is the time number. He also died on the 93rd Excuse me. WrestleMania that year was on April 3rd, the 93rd day of the year. The number associated with Saturn, which is associated with time. And then he would die 47 days later on his 187th day of his age. And don't forget that time in satanic gematria also equals 187. Number that's associated with homicide and killing. Said he died from heart disease, blamed on steroid use. In the world of sports, today, the NFL named Caesars Entertainment the first official casino sponsor of the NFL. Funny, the NFL did that today on 1-3. NFL has the gematria of 13. NFL and Jewish gematria also sums to 66. Caesars with the alphabetic order is 66. And remember, the first Super Bowl season was the 66th season. Why? Because 66 is the 11th triangular number, and football is a game of 11 on 11. So Caesars, the first casino, right as the playoffs are about to get underway. I think it's just more mocking. More mocking. Pro sports making big money for the casinos and big money for Israel ultimately, because pretty much who owns all those casinos are all Zionists that send all their money over to Israel. So just remember, if you're gambling and losing, you're paying for the tyrant effort. Fortunately, the majority of you who follow my work are not losing, but even when we win, we don't really take anything from these people. They just print more money. They just print more and more. But absolutely, they'd rather see the public lose than win. They love to hurt the public and hold the public down. Last night on the radio show, somebody also called in and said, "Hey, Zach, did you see this headline from June 18th, 2018 about Tom Brady? Patriots QB Tom Brady addresses retirement, acknowledged there's an end coming." Right away with the alphabetic order, an end coming sums to 99. This is before the start of the 99th NFL season. New England in that same cipher sums to 99. Couldn't help but notice an end coming equals 54 in the two reduction ciphers either, because if Tom Brady made it to the Super Bowl and lost, he would become 5-4. And there is a very strong chance that the Super Bowl does end up being New England and New Orleans. New Orleans and Drew Brees have that gematria of 54. So we'll be looking at this in greater detail this weekend when we do the playoff decodes. We'll be doing that Friday, tomorrow. Games are Saturday and Sunday. But did think that was pretty interesting. Good observation there. Also, someone called in last night. Just want to make sure people catch this. Philadelphia, longtime TV personality, just retired after 42 years. Vernon Odom in the city of brotherly love. Retired after 42 years as a black man. And again, this number stamped on black history. Is it a coincidence? His final episode was December 14th, 2018. That was a date with 64 numerology. Civil rights equals 64, like the Civil Rights Act in 64. It's also a date with 44 numerology. African-American 44 in the septenary cipher. Remember, Barack Hussein Obama equals 64. He was the 44th president 44 years after the Civil Rights Act. So, don't think that's any coincidence. And also another caller last night, just want to make sure people have this information, thought this was very interesting. Our brilliant man from New York, he said, "Did you know that Mad Dog Mattis had another nickname and it was Chaos?" Well, I did not know this. And this information was seemingly first put out September 21st, 2017. A lot of articles about this on that day. We'll start here. Chaos has gematria of 26, like the nickname Mad Dog, 26, and he was the 26th Secretary of Defense. Mad Dog Mattis was. The date that these articles were published, September 21st, 2017, date was 67 numerology, the 19th prime. Chaos is also 19 in the most pure cipher. And think about how Mad Dog Mattis retired at the very end of 2018, or resigned and was replaced. And That was to start 2019, this year, where we expect a big agenda of order out of chaos. So, very good observation. You know what else I'm noticing? When these articles were written, September 8th, they were written September 21st, 2017. That was 13 days after his 67th birthday. So not only was the date numerology 67, but he was 67, the 19th prime. And now to start 2019, he gets replaced. Chaos is out of there. I believe that is symbolic. I don't think that means the order out of chaos agenda is off the table, though. Not at all. We'll leave it there for today, Truth Seeker. I still need to get the second edition uploaded of Letters and Numbers. Going to get that up on Patreon for the people at the top tier, $11 a month. It's got page numbers, edits, and a few improvements, a few key pieces of information. Meant to get that up yesterday, but got carried away with the decodes, and then the radio show came, and then my lady needed some quality time, so I will finish that right now. And I think for the next month and a half, I'm going to keep the podcast a little bit shorter rather than going the full hour, because I'm writing the book right now. I want it to be done by mid-February. I want to get that thing in print as soon as possible, so that when we're out spreading the word, we can have a book in our actual hands that people will want to read. You know, some people will read the book on the computer, but a lot of people would rather read a book in their hands, and I got to make that happen. So we'll leave it there for today, Truth Seeker. Hope you appreciated the podcast. I appreciate all of you who are signed up for the Patreon. Again, you're helping me save up this money to make things happen. This is the money. I mean, if this wasn't happening, there wouldn't be any way to travel and do the things planned for 2019. So thank you again, and we'll be back tomorrow. Take care, Truth Seeker.